Hey friends, how many of you have ever dreamed about, quitting your job one day? I mean, a lot of times when we think about financial freedom and what it could bring, we always think about someday, right? Someday in the future. But what if that someday becomes today? You know what I mean? Like instead of, oh, one day I'll do this or one day I'll do that. What if the opportunity presents itself that your someday becomes today? Right? And that's where financial freedom really matters the most, where you can take advantage of those opportunities that may not have been expected. And that's exactly what, happened to me. So previously, in a previous video, I shared with you how I took a year off once I retired from the military, to redefine freedom for myself, just all the different things. But there did come a point where I'm like, okay, and I hate to admit it, I got a little bored, but I was like, okay, I'll start looking for a possible job. But the difference is I was doing that because I wanted to, not because I had to. So that's a big difference. So I ended up applying for this job working at, Department of Veteran Affairs. So I was excited about it because I thought that I was going to be working day to day with veterans. That's what it was all about for me. But little did I find out that was not the case. I had very little interaction with the veterans. It was more so about data entry. So I knew after a while, even though I love the people that I work with, I started feeling a certain type of way. It's like, no, I don't think I'm gonna be here long. I don't like this. So sure enough, one day, if you know anything about the VA, Department of Veteran Affairs, they're always behind, especially years ago when you're talking about, dealing with veteran benefits and stuff like that, they were behind. So in order to catch up, they call themselves wanting to implement what they call mandatory overtime. Yeah, my supervisor, basically sent out a message saying, to catch up, we're going to have to implement mandatory overtime. You're going to have to do, extra, I don't know, I think it was like 5 or 10 hours. I don't know, but they got me when I read mandatory overtime. I was like, mandatory anything is no longer in my vocabulary, okay? I am no longer in the military. People cannot tell me what to do, where to be, all that type of stuff. I drew the line right there. So I knew that was my point. I was going to quit, right? So instead of quitting that day, then listen, y'all, I almost forgot. This is only after 2 months of being there. Not 2 years, not 20. 2 months of being at this job. They're talking about mandatory overtime. No, ma'am. I wasn't going to do it. So, I was going to be nice because I've always, heard don't burn any bridges, right? You just never know, right? So I did the right thing, put in my 2 weeks notice and, just having that option of saying, this isn't for me. This isn't what I signed out for. This isn't the life that I want to live. That right there, yeah. So I put in my 2 weeks notice, saying, hey, I'm resigning this position and stuff like that. And then my supervisor actually had the nerve. She was like, well, until you're actually gone, you still have to do your mandatory overtime. Y'all, I tried not to black out on that lady. Right? I tried not to flip over tables. But I told her, I said, listen, I'm not going to do it. So you can either accept these 2 weeks or I don't even have to come back after lunch. I told her just like that, whatever option you want to do. So needless to say, I went back after lunch, but yeah, I put in my 2 weeks and I didn't look back. Sharing, every time I share that story, it's not a matter of, girl, you quit after 2 months and did. And like I said, yeah, the job wasn't what I thought it was. That happens. The place wasn't a bad place to work, but it just didn't line up with where I saw my life wanting to be. The thing about it, it helped me to realize by quitting that job after 2 months, I chose peace over a paycheck. Yeah, I chose peace over a paycheck. I wasn't going to do it, and it just goes back to show you when you have your financial house in order, you have options. You don't have to work to pay the bills and stuff like that. I only wanted to work because I wanted to. It was something that, I got bored. So I'm like, let me try this out. But the minute it started stepping on my toes and my freedom, how I wanted to live, I had to give it up. I had to give it up. So it just really helped me to remember that no matter what, always protect your peace. Don't let anything interrupt that if you can help it. Now, I know that not everybody's in a situation where they may be able to, just walk away from a job, but what price can you put on the life that you want to live ultimately, right? Can you imagine getting up every day, going to a job that you hate, right? I had already did 20 years in the military, not to say that I hated it, but someone else controlling my life. I didn't have a say in what I could and could not do. So I didn't want that to happen again. So yeah, I quit that job, and I'm and my brother, he's a veteran too, and he always says, he's been with his company for years, and he was like, you veterans are the hardest people to work with because y'all have that mindset of, I don't need this, you can't tell me nothing. And yeah, after a while, absolutely. So yeah, just being able to walk away from that job just opened me up to, I can say, the freedom to say no to things I don't want, and also at the same time, yes to things that I want as well. Yeah, that's what really made it worthwhile, being able to walk away from something that did not align with my lifestyle values. And that just brings me to the point, have you taken the time to identify what your lifestyle values are? Like mine is, if you couldn't guess, is freedom, travel, being with family, relationships, connecting. All of those things are of value to me. So I don't want to do anything that would jeopardize that. So yeah, whenever you have to make a hard decision in your life, weigh it out, right? Like, at what cost are you willing to, I don't know, I'm just lost for words. At what cost are you willing to jeopardize your lifestyle values for a paycheck, right? Sometimes it just reminds me too, this same job, it was at a lower pay grade that I was, experienced for. And people would ask me like, why you didn't go for this job? You was this rank in the military. Why you didn't want to go for another higher job? Because it wasn't about that for me. When I left the military and when I decided to go back to work, I didn't want to be nobody's supervisor. I didn't want to be responsible for people. I just wanted to go do my job and go home at a certain time, 8:30 to 4:30, right? So that's probably why I reacted the way I did when they said mandatory retirement, because that's not what I signed up for. So it's not always about, the money, but it's the margin, I should say, or the freedom that the money allows you to have. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys and just give you something to think about, is that, what will it take for you to live a life of your values today? Not someday in the future. If you had financial freedom today, what would that look like for you? I would love for you to share it in the comments. So until next time, I'll see you in the next video.